Welcome to the Dental Marketing Guy Show. I'm Justin, the Dental Marketing Guy, and today we have a special guest because let me tell you what Rohit Garg is here to tell us is really, really important because we're talking about tracking the numbers in your practice. We're talking about essentially what's working, what's not working as far as marketing. And Practice by Numbers is a great resource. I'd love to introduce you to Rohit Garg, and he's gonna tell us about how he helps dentists like you track the numbers in their practice and really just figure out what works and what doesn't. I can't possibly even do an introduction for you, Rohit. I think that you'll tell us the story of Practice by Numbers. I know I see it all over Dental Town. It's a really big deal. But for those dentists that haven't heard the story behind Practice by Numbers and why it was started and how it was started, I'm hoping you can take the floor on that. But first of all, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Justin.
Excellent, excellent. So I was hoping you could kind of tell us the history behind, why was Practice by Numbers started?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be on, and it's an honor. And how I started in this field is it goes a long time ago, and I'm an engineer by trade. I'm an electrical engineer with a master's. I'm in Seattle, right here in. Went to school at UW, and then I got married to a dentist, and that was my introduction to dentistry. She was an associate, she was working with somebody else, and then 2008-9 timeframe, she decided that enough is enough to work for somebody else. Like most dentists, they all want to own their business, and my wife is no exception. And in 2010, despite all odds, she decided to do a startup dental office. And at that time, I jumped in. I started helping her out a little bit, understanding the business side of dentistry, and I got more and more interested. The more I learned about dentistry, and the more interested I got, and to a point where I got quite involved in running her office. Even though I had a full-time job working as an engineer for Philips Healthcare, I was also helping her run her business on the side. And one of the things in a corporate world we do a lot is we manage by numbers. We rarely ever manage any project or any business by touch and feel. Okay? And how is very important, don't get me wrong, but what is incredibly important. You knew how. I mean, you had that touchy-feely thing going on. You like your front office person, you don't like your front office person, but what were they doing right? And that was always missing, and that's why I started helping her. And I helped her with running her office by numbers for many years till 2014, late 14, early 15. I kind of got sick and tired of helping her, spending my weekends on this, and decided that this is the business that could actually be useful, and we could sell this to other people as well, because whatever I did was not quite rocket science, but at the same time was very complex that she couldn't do it herself. Okay? And most dentists can't do it themselves. So we decided to form a company. We did a competitive analysis of what's out there. There are a couple of companies out there at that time. Now it seems like they're springing up like mushroom because it's a great industry, it's a great business to be in. But at that time, a year and a half ago, there are a couple of good companies out there, and those companies are still around. And the reason we decided to go ahead and move forward with this company, even after knowing that those companies are out there, first of all, huge opportunity. The market is huge. Second, neither of those companies were doing the job that we expected out of a business management software. So we decided to create a company. Myself, Dr. Agarwal, my wife, Dr. Agarwal, me, and another co-founder. Three of us got together. We got some early investor money. We formed the company. We released 3 months ago, came out of beta, and have grown tremendously. Today, we added our 123rd or 124th client. So we've been growing all by word of mouth. And you heard about Sun Dental Town. That was a word of mouth as well. So that's my long-winded answer of how we kind of got started.
That's excellent. And so you said there's about 120 to 140 dentists using Practice by Numbers right now?
Yes, yes. We added 124th, I think, today.
Based on that, kind of that, because you've got a good baseline, right? So you've got some data to share. What are some of the ideas or quick tips you could provide dentists watching this show to say, this is what we've noticed. This is some takeaway tips that we've seen from the data that we've gathered.
Yeah, one of the things I would say is that success is never accidental. And I've noticed this over and over and over again. So over 100 practices that we're working with, people think there are practices that suddenly come up to be very successful, $2, $3, $4 million practices. It doesn't happen like that. Success is never accidental. There's obvious, of course, there are people who do get lucky, but that luck doesn't carry them over to a point where they become really successful. There's a lot of leadership, there's a lot of business, good business, sound business principles, and a lot of good employees that go into it. So when you say, when people talk about big, huge practices, successful practices, it never suddenly comes into existence. There's a lot of hard work and perseverance that goes into it, not just to getting it there, but sustaining it. So the doctors that we talk to, there's these two different camps that we talk to. Yeah, this one camp of people who clearly understand the power of numbers. They understand, they've been doing this for a while, and they want a very automated way of doing things. And these practices are already doing $2 to $3 million. Okay? And then I have another group of people who are smaller practices. They understand the value of numbers, but don't quite know how to get there with them. And that's where we help them also. And I have a third group, which is they believe you just keep doing good work, coming to work and leaving, and things will fall into place. And these people, I can tell you one thing, they will never get to a point where they will achieve their potential. They'll do fine, but I don't think they'll ever achieve their true potential because they don't understand what is actually even possible.
That which is measured is improved, right? And I think that's kind of the idea behind what you guys are doing. So, I think you've got some information you can share, some screenshots, or maybe share the screen where we could talk about, okay, here's some of the features, here's some of the benefits of being able to track your data, being able to figure out what's working and what's not.
Yeah, so let's do one thing. Let's talk about it in terms of your context of listeners, right? And let's talk in terms of marketing and ROI and new patient counts and all that good stuff. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll look at several practices. What we have here is these guys have added about $5,400 of value today. They've added 3 appointments. Now, let's look at this practices. How well are they doing in terms of their new patients? So let's look at their patient flow. And this particular practice, they are looking at about 82 new patients that they've entered this month so far. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if I run the same practice year to date, would have probably added, I think, maybe in the range of about 500, no, 600, right? 600 total patients so far. Now, if you see, one of the key things here is almost 42% of their patients are from unknown sources. And what does that tell you?
Well, 42%. Yeah, I mean, it means 42% is completely unknown. I mean, how do you increase the unknown marketing? How do you increase that?
Exactly. Well, how would you know where to spend your money in? Okay. All right. Let's assume those 42% of patients were completely bogus. They came into the practice and they got a free consult and they left. Okay, they were useless. Let's just assume that for a second. And when you're looking at here, Google search sent them 74 patients year to date, internal 144, your sign-in location 54. Now, Google, for this practice, I think is one of the biggest revenue generators for them, or new patient generators for them, assuming these 42% don't matter. Okay.
Hmm.
How do I know how much money did Google generate? Because you have to look at it both in terms of how much revenue was generated by Google in that month, but you also want to look at it how much was generated from Google over the year. Okay. So if I actually scroll down right here, what this is showing me is year to date, after $1.1 million production done in this office, year to date, okay, I have about $88,000 was generated by Google for all patients. But what I'm also trying to look at is how much of that was generated by on new patients only. So out of $1.1 million, $490,000 was new patient revenue only. And out of which how much is that? 58,000 is generated from Google. Now, let's say a practice wants to understand if they're doing, let's say, some sort of a special advertising on Google, and they want to count the number of crowns that are the amount of crowns or any other procedure. You can look at, click on that, go to the next level. So out of $58,000, they spent $41,000 on doctors and $17,000 on hygienists. I can go one step further. Out of those, all the Google patients, they had $15,000 worth of crowns done.
How do you actually track it from within the office? Is it about asking the patient, or is it about, for instance, AdWords, direct mail? You've got tracking numbers, you've got ways of geometrically tracking it. Maybe with word of mouth or SEO, it might be a little bit more difficult to track. So in the cases where you're not able to geometrically track it with like a tracking number, are you relying on the doctors and the staff asking the patient, or how is that all tracked? Because the 40+% unknown in this case, I would guess at least some of that is word of mouth. So how do you take the unknown and actually bring that category down and actually attribute it towards a certain area?
Yeah, so that's a great question. One of the things we try to train most of our offices is that when a patient walks in, they have multiple opportunities to ask them on where they heard about us. You have to ask them, how did you first hear about us? Okay? And you have to ask them on the phone call, the first time they call in. That's the best time to ask them that question. And we train our staff, we train our offices to do that. Now, this particular office their numbers were actually a lot worse. And since they have gotten practice by numbers, they've started improving and asking them. So one of the KPIs, let me show you, this office creates is their front office KPIs. If I go into their front office page, they actually track on how many, if I go into current month, they actually track on how many of their new patients have referral sources. And this month they're lagging back behind because I think they're going to go back and they're writing them on paper, and they'll probably fill it up at the end of the month.
Okay.
So what has happened is in this front office, they have assigned this particular KPI to one of their front office persons, and it's her job to keep this high. So if I go back 1 month, if I go back to, let's say, August, it was a little bit higher, 64%. So they're trying to improve on how many new patient referrals that they have. And we provide a list right away. Here are all the new patients that were seen, and these are the ones that don't have any referral information.
Interesting. Okay. Well, this has been interesting. So as far as actionable data, so what do you find most dentists, it seems like, dentists are really busy, and the front desk is really busy, and everyone's really busy doing dentistry. How much time dedication are we talking here? How much in time investment does a dentist need to take in order to say, I know what I need to do. This is what's working. I need to do more of it. Or, you know what? A lot of stuff isn't working. I need to look at new solutions. I mean, how much time and cognitive energy do you think actually goes into finding a solution to, say, marketing problems using
Not not enough, and you probably know that there should be a lot more than they're spending the time right now on doing that. Most dentists actually don't know, first of all, where their marketing dollars are going. Many of them don't know. Some of them do. They definitely don't know how the marketing dollars are coming, or what's the return on investment. So I think in a lot of offices, including my wife's offices, if I was not watching it, she would not be spending enough energy on it. And they would need somebody like you or your services to help them actually understand what and where the marketing goes. But because marketing needs to be now quantitative, and the times of just throwing the money on yellow pages and hoping patients will call you from that is kind of over.
Yeah, it's a whole new age, and I appreciate you coming on the show and showing us the software, and just talking about what how do I even track the numbers in my office. I've heard that from a lot of dentists, and I think tracking numbers is just the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to put tracking numbers on your direct mail, your radio ads, your AdWords. But there's a lot of stuff going on that, I mean, when you dig into, here's the percentage of hygiene, here's the percentage uh, of operative work. I mean, that's really incredible. So, yeah, thank you, Rohit. I appreciate you coming on the show. And so, where can the viewers where can the viewers find you?
Well, they can find us on practicenumbers.com, but before we go into the contact and all, I also want to show that one of the key things with new patients is not just the ones that are generated, it's the ones that are missed. And that's very, very important as well. So, for example, this little phone IQ app that we have that works with all dentists' regular phone lines, what this does is it keeps track of how many incoming calls there are. Okay, how many outgoing calls? How many did they miss? How many calls were returned? What was the average time when they were returned? But if you see at the bottom over here, new patients missed. Okay, it keeps track of every single call that's coming in so that you're not missing new patients. If I go back yesterday, there's one new patient that they actually missed.
Oh, wow.
And if I go back the previous day, let's go back a few days before, I'm sure I'll find more times when they have actually missed new patients or they have recovered new patients. If I look at this one particular practice, if I go into their phone IQ account, I'm pretty sure they would have recovered quite a few new patients. So if I see this one particular practice, this is just the month of October. Or actually, this is, which one are we looking at? This is August we're looking at. If I go back to the month of October, they have recovered 16 new patients from their missed calls. They saw a call come in, we flagged the call as a new patient call, and they called them back right away.
Well, that's
and they
excellent.
recovered 16 new patients. Can you imagine the ROI on 16 new patients? Now,
Yeah.
this is a busy practice. They're getting 60, 70 new patients, but they increased their new patient count by almost 10 to 15% without spending a single dollar on marketing because they were missing fewer calls.
That's excellent. I know Howard Frand is always harping on this about, why doesn't Dentrix offer tracking? Why doesn't, why do all these practice management softwares not take accounting and ROI seriously? And why is it such a maze to get some numbers? And,
Yeah.
I think that message resonates with a certain crowd of dentists. And I think the bottom line is most dentists are not taking this seriously. Otherwise, people like Henry Schein would have to adapt their software to allow for that. But for the dentists that are taking these numbers seriously, I mean, you're ahead of the game. So I want to thank you for coming on, and we're coming to a close on our time, but this is really huge. I mean, I thank you. It's been an honor and very educational.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Justin. And people can find us on practicenumbers.com, and they can obviously find us on Dental Town. And it's been a pleasure to be on your show.
Excellent. Hey guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you see this on the Dental Marketing Guy blog, if you see it Dental Marketing Guy show on YouTube, Dental Town, social media, feel free to reach out to me or Rohit directly, and I will be happy to help you find answers to your questions. Thank you again, Rohit.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. Thanks for watching the Dental Marketing Guy show.